How did you find the EMBL when you came? I mean, what was the situation at the end of the 80s, and what did you find that enabled your work?
But I think there were two things which I found particularly extraordinary when I arrived at the EMBL. The first one was the freedom. This extraordinary feeling that you could be in your lab, you could do whatever you decided to do without, talking to people and so on. That was something totally new for me. And the second thing was the international feeling, but not really international, European feeling. Because at that time, there were mostly Europeans at the EMBL. And I sort of discovered this feeling of belonging to something that was larger than the national, that a country. There was an Italian community, there was a British community, there was a Scottish community, there was a lot of community from people from the northern countries, and they would organize, cultural events and so on. That was fantastic. We had a celebration of the 200 years of French Revolution here, the French community, and all of this participated in the way we would see research going on with sort of different viewpoints from different cultural influences. It was fantastic. I became a European here at the EMBL.
Is any of the knowledge in Drosophila that was around here, or was there any of the knowledge that instructed you to look invertebrate? I know the Hox have been found by using degenerate sequence.
No, there was not at the EMBL. Yanni and Eric had left. The EMBL was not developmental biology friendly. Okay, I had problems to understand that when I was there. In retrospect, I understand, of course, it was not the point. Yeah. EMBL was mostly a sort of to develop instrumentations and basic molecular biology. This is why it was funded. EMBL, it's molecular biology. Sure. So we were very, very few people interested in developmental biology, and the shock was in 1984, 85. So in 1988, 89, it was not yet fully, it hasn't yet fully entered into the minds of everyone. And it's true that EMBL was not a place where developmental biology could be developed. That came in 1993, I believe, when Fotis Kafatos came to replace Lennart Philipson. And then he decided, actually he offered me to start a program in developmental biology in a very interesting breakfast in the Hauptstrasse in EMBL, but I was too late. And I would say, fortunately, it was too late for me. I had signed a contract, and
so you
and
were
then
ready to move
right,
to the
and
next
then the
step.
EMBL started to develop, first with Steve Cohen and then with Anne Fussi to develop the developmental biology.
All right, so you were basically a progenitor of developmental biologists, but I guess the molecular perspective must have benefited a lot your work, because of course you were about finding the genes and finding the regulations.
Absolutely, that was the perfect place for me, where to stay 4 or 5 years. I could set the basis of the program we were then able to develop, for the next 25 years, 30 years. If you look back, in fact, the roots of all this work which we've been doing in Switzerland after, they go back to here, to the EMBL, in fact, to the extraordinary chance I had to develop this.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you, and keep on jumping a bit between the EMBL and science, you have been studying Hox genes for all your career. And I was thinking, is there something that we still need to know about that? And how, through the years, your knowledge advanced? This morning in your lecture, you were referring to transforming essentially time into space, which I find a great concept. So, in few words, what do you think there is still there to discover that you would like to, approach in the future?
Yeah, you mean to discover for the sake of humanity or for the sake of myself? For my internal,
it depends.
my internal journey.
You should tell me what you want to discover it for the sake of humanity. This is actually another good question.
I think you can see things differently in research. You can have a particular question, a precise question that you want to solve, and trying to solve it. You can alternatively have a process, something that is a journey, and out of this process you generate knowledge, sort of a lateral branches, and this is more my way to do. That is, I'm more enjoying the journey than the place I'm going to. It's a matter of process. It's a matter of being constantly in this discovery process. And the Hox genes in this respect are a very good way to travel through this journey, because there's always going to be things to learn about them. I mean, you were talking about this morning, what are their function? We don't know what are their function. Okay, the real function we don't know, how they are regulated, when they arose during evolution, how they do behave in unprobable animals, etc. So there's always things to learn. But what is important is not to learn them, is that there are always things to learn. Okay. So you can keep on, into this process.
Yeah, because I think, you were referring to, why we do that. And, one thing that I've seen of your careers is that you've been, very focused on fundamental research. I mean, of course, misfunctioning of the Hox is, I think, at the base of a lot of congenital alteration and stuff like that. And you described some of these things with Hox mutations and all sorts of deletions. But then you were very focused on the base, so generating things that then others would follow up on.
Yes, but on the other hand, I don't have any second thought on this. I always encourage people to go for this, also for going into companies or whatever. This is all good. It's all good to me. I like to stay focused on my journey, and if people can hijack the train and then going into this direction, then it's great.
What were you feeling, having known Fotis Kafatos, when you were asked to give the inaugural Kafatos Lecture?
Oh, I was very, very proud and very glad, and of course very sad, because it made me remembering all this good time I had with Fotis, and this particular breakfast I had with him in 1993 when he asked me if I wanted to stay at the EMBL, and I had to say no. And as you may know, if you had met Fotis, he was someone. It was difficult to say no.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
Difficult to say no to him, because he was very persuasive.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it must have been quite a big change from the previous director, having Fotis coming in with, let's say, the experience in the US and
was totally different.
Ideas.
Even though I must say that I appreciated Lennart, Philipson. I think he was a great person too. Completely different character, but a fantastic director too.
Yeah. Okay. Now everybody has been commenting about Fotis being really, a turning point for a number of things that I guess mark a difference between a very early lean and nimble organization to something that started to structure the PhD program, thought of postdoc programs and all this.
But I must say, giving this talk in Heraklion with his Greek friends and family and his wife and so on, it was very touching.